Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News Refresh on Arizona PBS. I'm Amna Sapon. Thank you for joining us. Pima County's Health Director Teresa Cullen has tested positive for COVID-19. As the county sent out a statement this morning saying her result is part of a larger outbreak in the department. Pima County residents are also under a new mandatory curfew. The curfew went into effect last night after the Pima County Board of Supervisors voted 3-2 to implement one. They joined the city of Tucson in an effort to reduce the spread of COVID-19. The curfew will be in place every night from 10 to 5 the next morning until the county's infection rate drops. Meanwhile, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs is taking a stance on mask mandates. Biggs took to Twitter yesterday posting, quote, "Maricopa County is proof that mask mandates fail to slow the spread." Biggs then shared a graphic showing the number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have increased since the county imposed a mask requirement over the summer. But the former state health director, Will Humble, disagreed with the post by tweeting a link to an article that shows disposable surgical masks or reusable cotton masks greatly reduce the risk of infection. The Navajo Nation began receiving coronavirus vaccines doses on Monday as the tribal health officials reported 158 additional COVID-19 cases and 2 more related deaths. In all, the tribe has reported 19,766 virus cases, resulting in 722 deaths since the pandemic began. Navajo Nation Jonathan Nez and Vice President Myron Leiser visited the Gallup Indian Medical Center as the first vaccine shipment arrived. As businesses continue to struggle across the country due to COVID-19 restrictions, Arizona's restaurants and bars have been given a lifeline with the updated temporary expansion permit program. Cronkite News reporter Kaylin Keenahan takes us to the Daily Jam in Tempe, where they've completed their state-funded expansion.
Daily Jam, a staple breakfast spot on Mill Avenue, has a new addition, a patio.
We've got a handful of tables all spread out at least 6 feet apart.
Daily Jam requested an expansion of premises permit with the city of Tempe.
We just said, hey, there's this big courtyard space that's not being utilized right now. So we were able to reach an agreement with property management. And they said, yeah, you can occupy that space because it's not being used by anybody else right now.
The temporary permit followed Governor Doug Ducey's executive order to ease restrictions on outdoor dining and to make it easier for restaurants and bars to obtain an expansion.
It's kind of nice to have that added capacity come back somewhat in a socially distant, safe outdoor dining experience.
Restaurants and bars can apply at azcommerce.com, where the program will fund up to $10,000 for the expansion, furniture like the tables and chairs you see behind me, and even heat lamps for chilly Arizona mornings.
I think everyone has been forced to pivot and become extremely creative and rising to the challenges we're facing right now.
Daily Jam's temporary permit will be enabled until May of 2021. In Tempe, Caitlin Keenahan, Cronkite News.
Although Daily Jam's business has picked back up due to the expansion, many other small restaurants do not have the space to create a patio and are still struggling financially. Up next, we'll take a look at the ultimate goal for women's soccer in the U.S. And later this half hour on Break It Down, how the Black community relies on joy during tough times.
Ready to watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere, on nearly any device? It's easy with the free Pbs Video App. Simply download the Pbs Video App on your mobile or streaming device. Now you can watch the latest PBS episodes or catch up on the shows you missed. And when you support your local station, you can get PBS Passport, giving you access to more episodes, more specials, more of what you love. Ready to watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere, on nearly any device? It's easy with the free Pbs Video App. Simply download the Pbs Video App on your mobile or streaming device. Now you can watch the latest PBS episodes or catch up on the shows you missed. And when you support your local station, you can get PBS Passport, giving you access to more episodes, more specials, more of what you love.
The great thing is to last and get your work done, and see and hear and learn and understand, and write when there is something that you know, and not before, and not too damned much after.
Coming in April to Arizona PBS.
I think he was a terrific father, sometimes. I think that he was a loving husband, sometimes. I think he was like so many people, except this enormous talent. Hemingway is very complicated. I hate the myth of Hemingway. It obscures the man, and the man is much more interesting than the myth.
Coming in April to Arizona PBS.
So where did it all start for you, wanting to be a vet?
There was a small city farm at the back of my school. I developed a real love for the animals there.
Ah, well, you see, the animals are the easy part. It's the people cause all the bother.
All creatures, great and small. On Masterpiece.
Coming in January to Arizona PBS.
There's never been a more important time to make sure facts and the truth are driving conversation. Washington Week is an island of civil discourse in a chaotic media environment. On Friday nights, we gather the best reporters in the nation to unpack what's really happening and have a conversation that's not about point of view, but about informing the American people.
Washington Week.
All new Friday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves. You know, I don't go anywhere without my passport. And now, thanks to PBS Passport, you can travel with me and watch all 10 seasons of Rick Steves Europe and all my travel specials. This exclusive streaming service is just for our members. Not only can you see all my shows, but you can see thousands of hours of your favorite public television shows. Become a member today and get your passport.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
Right now, a small town in the heart of Maricopa County is experiencing high numbers of COVID-19, but that's not the only problem there. Cronkite News reporter Carolina Lopez puts this story into perspective and explains what authorities are doing to help.
Guadalupe has been hit hard by the pandemic. Recently, health authorities announced that the numbers have improved, but the problem still exists.
Although they are still experiencing higher rates than overall in the county, we're working with them.
According to the census in 2019, Guadalupe had a population of over 6,000. From April 21 to June 10 of this year, Guadalupe had 4.6 times more cases of COVID-19 than the rest of Maricopa County. Local health authorities and other organizations started helping this community by bringing the COVID-19 test.
It's a pretty simple process where you tilt your head back and we swab. We want to collect some of the mucus from your nose.
Ramona Fields, resident of Guadalupe, says she and her family are taking precautions to prevent the virus.
Brought my father, came with my brother, and then my two of my kids. We're safe also to keep, we've been keeping an eye on my dad because of all, he has a lot of underlying conditions, so we've been keeping an eye on him.
Besides the pandemic, Guadalupe faces other difficulties, the mayor says.
We have rural problems in an urban setting. You know, we have families that don't have running water. We have families that don't have electricity.
The last census report indicates that Guadalupe has a nearly 33% poverty rate and 20% of residents under the age of 65 do not have medical insurance.
Some of the services we've provided are housing and wraparound services, providing food, masks, testing, and so we continue those efforts, but they are certainly headed in the right direction, and we have seen their numbers go down.
Carolina Lopez, Cronkite News.
What would you do with $100,000? Well, if you coach in the National Football League and decided to not wear a mask while on the sidelines, you would be using that money to pay a fine. The strict protocols the NFL put in place has resulted in minimal positive COVID-19 cases. So, how will high school football teams handle non-compliant coaches? Enough practice and anticipation. High school football under the bright lights begin on Friday night and teams are ready to roll, including coaches wearing mandated face coverings for safety reasons.
We don't have a fine for, the coach or anything like that, but we sanction games and we provide the officials. And if you can't follow the required procedures, then we won't assign officials, which means there's no game.
There are far too many games to monitor all of the sidelines each week, so the AIA has evaluators set to monitor as much as they can.
And what we're doing is paying attention mainly to help remind people we have to follow through.
I got to wear a mask. They better wear a mask. That's the bottom line. If that's what the rules are, you got to follow them.
Coaches and personnel must keep a mask on at all times, and according to AIA guidelines, the players are not allowed to participate in post-game handshakes with opposing teams.
I'm not very concerned about handshakes with the player. Plus, we just spent 60 minutes touching each other and playing football against each other, so I don't really see the harm in a handshake line.
Our kids, when they go to play a game, have not been cleared, per se, like they do in college or professional sports. There's a little more risk.
With a higher risk, coaches are making sure they follow all safety protocols.
I'm one of those guys, I'm just totally jacked that we're getting a chance to play. And if that's what we have to do to get a chance to play, the coaches, I hate masks. I hate them with a passion, but I'll wear them because that's what we got to do.
Football kicks off Friday night, and the coaches and players will do anything to ensure they continue coaching and playing the sport they love. In the studio, Reed Harmon, Cronkite News.
2 more countries have joined a growing list of nations that pay their male and female athletes equally. Is the U.S. next? Reporter Shane Diffenbach explains how the USWNT can win the fight against pay in unequal
Soccer
pay.
in the United States is growing, whether it be the MLS expanding to 30 teams by 2022 or the women's national team winning back-to-back World Cups. But for the women, there's a bigger goal in mind.
Firing for the back post, and it's another one for Arizona State!
The U.S. women's national team may be ahead of the competition talent-wise, but in terms of equity, U.S. women are now behind. Brazil and England are the most recent out of 5 countries to announce equal pay for men and women in soccer. Former professional track and field athlete and sports historian Victoria Jackson says our eyes should be on the next collective bargaining agreement after the current player contract expires in 2021.
I think the new CBA is where we should be waiting and watching, since the judge pressed pause on the equal pay and discrimination lawsuit and even said they couldn't appeal right away.
In 2019, more than 1 billion viewers tuned in to watch women compete in World Cup soccer, setting a new record for viewership. Even when the women's games are broadcast to a wider audience, the stigma of women's soccer still shows. Karen Bardsley of Manchester City recalls differences in how broadcasters covered the match she played right before Arsenal and Liverpool's men's clubs faced off in August.
A lot of the pundits and the commentary was about, how the pitch was
pockmarked with stud marks and things like that, and how the more important game should have been played first.
Beyond cultural stigma, the U.S. women's national team suffered a legal setback in May when a judge ruled against their class action lawsuit claiming unequal pay and gender-based discrimination by the United States Soccer Federation. Moving forward, experts say sports culture and contracts will need to shift.
There should be a culture and a philosophical position of equal support. And we saw this with the WNBA's new CBA, that there had been a dramatic step up in what WNBA players would now get with their kind of historic CBA that was negotiated in the early spring of this year.
In Los Angeles, Shane Diefenbach, Cronkite News.
Bars, gyms, and other retail businesses have been reopened for over a month now. Nightclubs and bars have been operating at 50% capacity, while gyms have limited their capacity to 25%. And now the public has a way to report those businesses that are failing to comply. The Arizona Department of Health Services has installed a COVID-19 hotline where Arizonans can call in a complaint. The hotline was installed in early September, and AZDHS reportedly received over 12,000 calls in the first week of operation. Will Humble, the executive director of the Arizona Public Health Association, pushed for the installation of the hotline throughout the state.
Like it was a super important thing to put that hotline together so that people would know where to file a complaint. Now, I know that they did put together a hotline, but what I would have rather seen is that there be a requirement that that hotline be pasted in large font at least several places within each restaurant, bar, and nightclub. That hasn't happened, and I think that's a mistake. And I'm hopeful that they're taking these complaints seriously and following up and putting some real teeth into it. Because if the compliance is loose, that means the enforcement isn't going to work. And we could end up sliding back to something like we were, in July. I don't think we'll ever get to where we were in July because of several things. But I would really hate to see kids lose the opportunity to go to class because the health department did a bad job with compliance.
After a complaint is received, officials say the local or state health department will investigate it. If you would like to file a complaint, call the hotline at 844-410-2157, or you can submit a complaint through the AZDHS website.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.